get this.
Great day to you. This is Gray Transforms. I am Travis Gray. Today we are transforming with our guest, Kehlani Gandhi, Madam Gandhi. Madam Gandhi is an award-winning artist, activist, music producer, speaker, and teacher. She is a wise giant. Madam Gandhi received an M.I.A. from Harvard University, has toured as a drummer for M.I.A., Thievery Corporation, and Kehlani. I love Kehlani. Hello, Madam Gandhi. How are you today?
It's a joy to be here with you, Travis. And for those of you who are joining, I'm Kieran. Nice to meet you.
Yes. Kieran, it was beautiful that we had the opportunity to meet at the Envision Festival after you did a great speech about expressing one's inner light, bringing that out into the world. It's so needed, so necessary, and I love having taken a look at the history, the different things that you have been involved in to express your light. And your music is phenomenal. It has such a like a mixture of aspects. I find just my own subjective experience of it was that I really love the lyrics, and it was indigenous and rhythmic with the drumming and I had the opportunity to thanks to you. I had the opportunity to see you at the California Institute of Sciences in San Francisco. So that was as an artist, getting the opportunity to perform at a museum, that's so phenomenal. I really love everything that you're bringing into the world. So, thank you so much for your expression.
Thank you. And I'm so happy we got to meet at Envision. Your energy is incredible, and the work you're doing in meditation is so important. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. So that's very cool. So, how did you get started with all this? How did you become Madam Gandhi?
I grew up in New York City. I was always a drummer, and in school I ended up being a math major and a political science major. I did a minor in women's studies, and I was actually on the track to go work maybe in the government or in the White House. My parents really focused on sort of leadership and giving back. We had a big philanthropic household. But when I was in DC, all I wanted to do was play the drums and be more involved in music. And I really saw a rich opportunity for music to be the source of the message, for music to be the source of changing the world. I got a gig drumming for Thievery Corporation and ended up playing Bonnaroo with them as their percussionist, the fill-in percussionist, when I was 21 years old. It was a completely life-changing experience. And so I knew I wanted to work in music full time. So my first job out of school was actually at Interscope Records in Los Angeles as their first ever data analyst, crunching numbers for Spotify streams for the label. And Spotify had just launched in the United States in 2011, and people really didn't know how to analyze the importance of the streams. What did they mean? How can we inform marketing choices based on the streaming results? And so it was a really meaningful job for 2 years, and it was quite innovative in its own way. From there, I decided I wanted to go to Harvard Business School because I wanted to come back in the music industry and be responsible for signing bands that were making a difference in the world. At the same time, I was also touring, drumming for M.I.A., just really like kind of living on the music business side of things and then living on the creative side as a drummer touring. But when I graduated business school and the M.I.A. gig had ended, all I wanted to do was really just start putting out my own music. So that's when the two worlds fully came together, where I was like, well, I just have this degree. I just completed this very rigorous degree that's, all about, obviously business, but also just being innovative, entrepreneurial, creative, being a leader, being a thinker. And I'm a musician and a producer. So it just naturally came together when I launched Madam Gandhi and essentially took off on my own journey to create my own music with a message.
Yeah, that's amazing. I actually teach in a MBA program at my university, mostly to visa students. I think our student population is a majority of Chinese students. So I teach positive psychology and personality and motivation. I love that brought you the encouragement. It sounds like growing up, even your family was sort of encouraging of a a entrepreneurial flavor. The
Yes.
philanthropy and being a leader in the world,
Yes.
being a leader
Yes.
in your community, and you're doing such a great job of that. So there was a great story about this marathon that you ran. Was that the Boston Marathon? That was
It was London. It was here in
the
London.
London Marathon, 26 miles. So you're in London right now. So the London Marathon, and then that became a story. That initially you were just doing your thing, you're just running this marathon, but then this blossomed into this beautiful demonstration of feminism in the world. And so, can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was? What was happening there?
Yeah, absolutely. I was in my second year of business school. It was 2015. And I noticed a lot of the runners in Boston at the time, just super brave and powerful running on the Charles River. And I remember feeling, wow, there's so much grit here. There's so much personal empowerment. It takes a lot to get out of bed and say, I'm actually going to run on the river today at 6 a.m. when it's freezing outside before I even start my day. And I felt like, is that something that I would ever do? And so I remember my second year when the M.I.A tour had finished, and even my confidence was a little bit low because I had just come off this tour and felt like, what's next? I felt really inspired by the idea of running. And so it's important to set that tone, because my motivation for running and training and getting up in the morning and eventually, being able to run the London Marathon a year later was from this place of just wanting to build back my own sense of self-power and really, stepping into my own personal source of motivation and fitness and mental and physical health. Especially when you're running, all of your habits have to affirm the good behavior. You have to go to bed on time. You can't be drinking. You have to eat right. So it just like creates this virtuous cycle. April 26, 2015, I arrived at the start line of the London Marathon and realized I was about to be on day one of my period. And for anybody who's listening, let me tell you what you're not trying to do on day one of your period. For those of you who don't have a period, it's go and run for 4 hours. And so, I didn't have any of the usual products on me that we use to take care of ourselves on our cycle. And I was like, I don't even know if those products would be good for this. Whenever I have my period, I just miss a few days. And so I was like, I'd rather just free bleed and run this marathon than deal with these products on the way, deal with the discomfort and the fact that they may not even work. So I was like, I'd rather just free bleed. So that's exactly what I did. And I knew it was punk rock. I knew it was radical. I knew it was a statement. It also was just a choice for me in that moment. And it felt really important in a way. It felt really empowered. The more I ran, the more I thought, wow, I'm actually in this very privileged position to even choose to run this way. And that millions of girls and women, trans folks, gender nonconforming folks, people who bleed all around the world are not in that position of privilege. And that actually the stigma is one of the most effective forms of oppression, because it denies us the ability to talk comfortably and confidently about our own bodies and about what's actually happening. It prevents us from educating each other, from understanding how to take care of ourselves even better than we already are, from innovating new products, for understanding those who are suffering the most in silence because the shame is so strong. There's no need for the shame. In fact, there's a reason why it's only half the population that's bleeding. It's that we would love the support and the love and the awareness of the other half of the population is actually by design. Instead of us saying, ew, that's gross, wouldn't it be such an enlightened and empowered world if we said, how are you? What do you need? What are you experiencing? How can I support you while you're going through this thing that ultimately supports life on the planet and the human species? So when I crossed the finish line, I wrote about this experience and the story, free bleeding feminist marathon runner, like smiles proudly through like to combat shame, something like this. It was in Australia actually that wrote about it. The story just went completely viral all over the world. And it really taught me so much, because in that moment I was running for myself and stepping into my own personal power. But sometimes when we go first, you don't know whom else you might inspire and what it might open up just by speaking about something that's important to you and logical to you. So my message is not about free bleeding. The message is about empowerment, love, confidence, joy, celebration, the amazing things that our bodies do, able-bodied, non-able-bodied, like however we want to have these conversations, folks of different abilities, of varying abilities, we are all doing such amazing things. And so while that run was for folks, with a period, it also is really just a larger message of any of us honoring what it is that our bodies do rather than suffering foolishly, shamefully in silence.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so mind-boggling how much a human being hides. We hide things that we do,
Mm,
we hide so much that all of us are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Every month, half the population, more than half the population, are connected. There's actually a really beautiful book that I picked up from my library, and that's this one here. It's really thick. It's this is the Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets.
mm.
It was really interesting, and knowing that we were going to have this conversation, I bookmarked with one of the Madam Gandhi stickers here. I bookmarked menstrual cycle, and I
Mm.
won't read it straight from the book, but the the book mentioned that the menstruation, this natural process that was happening all the time. There's such an incredible reverence for it and fear at the same time. There was a lot of masculine fear for this, and this is like in times of Aristotle and before and after that at times that they were saying that this is like such a magical thing as well, sometimes used in very spiritual ritual type of things as well. And I thought it's just so crazy that in our modern times, such a powerful process, substance like this,
Yes,
such a powerful
is
thing that
neglected.
creates
Yes,
human beings. This is the every month. This is the creation of human beings that this opportunity to create the human being
yes,
didn't happen this
yes.
time, but
Sure.
all of that to have been just like hidden away. And like
Yes.
growing up, I think my mother hid her menstrual cycle so well. I'm an only child, and my mother, a deaf woman, raised me by herself. She hid her menstrual cycle so well that I knew very little about a menstrual cycle until adulthood. So she hid that going on so well. It's like, well, but why are we so in a state of shameful consciousness around things like this?
I think I love this and I really appreciate the empathy and awareness that you're choosing to have. And I do feel like there's a healthy matter of fact energy that any of us can have when talking about these different experiences that our bodies do and go through. I actually think, in terms of the misogyny that you discuss, I have an empathy there, which is also that in the shame and in the experience of having a cycle, there's also mood changes, there's mood fluctuations, there's times when those who are bleeding might have moodiness towards their closest people, and it's actually quite upsetting because you never want to be rude to those whom you love the most, and yet it's usually our most beloved who get the brunt of the PMS or PMDD or these kinds of symptomatic results of having a cycle. And so, in that way, I can also see why there's always this battle of the sexes without a desire to go deeper, to understand, to soften it. Because actually, every time that I've been moody on my cycle, what I actually need is someone to stifle that energy. It's kind of like when you're in boxing and someone hugs you because they're stifling the punches. And in a loving context, it actually allows the person to relax and to feel seen and cared for. It's very hard, it's a challenge, but I think there's an opportunity there for the person who's not bleeding to recognize that PMS is a very normal symptom of having a cycle and to actually offer a sense of empathy, softness, love, support, so that those symptoms actually mitigate. I think in terms of misogyny, there is also, in the modern cycle, in the modern day, we've had this kind of explosion of capitalism where in the same way we just want to buy everything and consume everything, we look at the female body in the same way, which is something that is a sexual entity for consumption, the way that women have long been stereotyped in Hollywood movies, obviously in pornography. And so, not that you can't be having sex on your period, no problem there, but absolutely the female body has been commodified and overly sanitized to be this kind of product. And so that is deeply problematic, and that is very misogynist.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to live in a world, I'd love to live in a world where we see the yumminess of all. I mean, when I'm on my period, I actually feel very sexy. I feel very feminine because whatever is happening hormonally, there's a different shift in the way I see the world, the way I feel. I also can feel moody. I can feel my estrogen levels depleted, so I feel tired. The best thing we can do is self-study and then tell our most closest people what's going on for us with that self-awareness. I try to tell my team, my partner, people who are immediately with me, I'm a little sensitive. I might be a little moody. I'm so sorry. My bandwidth is lower. I don't mean it. I'm doing my best. That way, like the much how we might treat somebody who's not feeling so well with a little bit of softness and grace, we afford that to those who are bleeding. The final thing I'll say about that though is that long time folks who bleed have not felt safe to do that because it's been used against us. Oh, she's too crazy to run for office. She's too crazy to be the CEO. But that's also because we're trying to break into systems that were designed for the masculine body and for masculine cycles. It's just ignorant and it's foolish. There is an opportunity there for us to design systems to accommodate incredible leaders and what it is that their bodies might do. So that's my more hopeful perspective, and a perspective that actually leans on love between those who bleed and those who do not bleed and those who do, rather than more fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like a few different things there. The objectifying of women, and that has created this challenge that without self-awareness, just like the funny dance between masculine and feminine is this paradoxical thing is quite entertaining, but it's if the masculine has the empathy to recognize the problems in the objectification of the fair sex of women, then that is also the process to becoming a better leader. It's also the process to becoming a better consciousness, a better awareness.
Yes.
But I can only do that by looking at the same things that you're encouraging those that are bleeding, that are going through a menstrual cycle. This self-awareness. Everyone needs self-awareness, and so for the masculine in the world to be self-aware of the objectification of women and not appreciate it, not being able to, like, I guess where that leadership skill is trained, is encouraged, is grown, is from what you had said about like a boxer, somebody that is finding their mood swings or a lot of emotional energy, emotionally charged due to symptomatic experiences of the cycle, of the ebbs and flows of life. To be held, to be hugged, to be to be secured. It's such a beautiful learning tool. And if you are a leader in your life, in business, anywhere in the world, and you're not able to hold, if you're not able to secure, then you're missing some aspect that can only be learned from being self-aware.
I love this. And I feel like the more we build allyship between people, the more we're able to feel safer in the world. I think it gives meaning and purpose actually for those who don't bleed to show up for those who do. And there's a great vulnerability in that opportunity, because if it's misused or if it's used against the person who was in their vulnerable state, that's where the trust gets broken. But I'm interested in rebuilding trust. I'm interested in building a more aware and conscious and loving world. And so that's why I keep talking about these issues as an opportunity for more love, rather than, as you say, this battle of the sexes energy.
And it is in your music. It's so clearly in your music that I think the song the world is feminine, the future is feminine, the future is woman. What's the name of the song?
The future is female, but I understand what you're talking about. My song. Female. Go ahead. Yeah.
There's a line in there that I really loved. I adore the empathy in this line. I believe it's that song, "The Future is Female." That there's a line about I'm not trying to be a feminist against men. I'm trying to collaborate. I'm trying to
Yes.
work together. We're trying to be
Yes.
in this together. We're trying to be in this world, shaping this world together, collaborating.
And I don't even think like and I also think it's a naive perspective for any of us to be blaming anybody. I actually see, again, an enormous amount of opportunity for love and connection, because the more there is separation, the more we all suffer. The more we believe that this person is the enemy, the more we prevent ourselves from growing. And have I experienced, someone underestimating me, being sexist, saying misogynist things? Absolutely. But the more I advance through my life, the more I can see that that person was already feeling small and therefore felt the need to make somebody else feel small. And that actually there's such a rich opportunity for women, feminine people, to step into our own power, to actually give love and support and kindness to the men. It's a two-way street, and I think we all have to see the responsibility of that, to be kind to one another, boundaried, of course, with self-respect. I think these systems have been designed to keep us separated and, preventing each other from being free. But I don't believe that true freedom comes at the expense of somebody else's freedom. And if you're out here wasting your time oppressing, saying derogatory things, you're only limiting yourself. The real truth is freedom. The real truth is kindness, positivity. And again, people mistake niceness, for kindness, or kindness for niceness. Kind is like, I'm empowered in my choice to be polite, to be thoughtful, to be boundary, to be empathetic. I'm empowered in that choice. And if I don't like how you're behaving, I don't have to deal with you. I can move on. Nice is, I want to impress you. I'm intimidated. I want you to think I'm cool. I want you to like me. So when you're nice to somebody, they instantly pick up on the insecurity that you need something from them, that you need their approval. But when you're right on the inside, when you're confident on the inside, you have this abundant ability to be patient, loving, kind, while still being boundaried and noticing what is behavior that might not be safe for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Niceness can be like a mask that one puts on to act in the face of others, but a kindness is a beingness.
It's genuine.
It's genuine. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
There is this image, maybe you've seen this before, of like, it's like a man, a woman, and a child, like a family with a child, and then there's like a fence. And the fence is to represent the limitations and the things that we are trying to rise above or whatever. And so there's this it's about equity and equality, and then there's like these boxes that are given to the family, and the man in a patriarchal society is still already above the fence, and now if everybody is given this same box, then the man is like extra above the fence, and then the women are still having trouble seeing, and the child still doesn't get to see. And then if you give them equal amounts, there's like a different kind of problem in there. And I've always looked at that image and put the hands together, because division it is a limitation to our freedom, to what our true freedom and optimism and kindness and goodness in the world is. If we are not in it together, we cannot look over the fence. But the purpose of putting our hands together, of dissolving the divisions between us, is not to just merely look over the fence, but to break down the fences that are also dividing us from one another.
I love this. I really agree. I really love this. I fully agree with you. And I think it's such a yummy opportunity to say, oh, I'm blaming this person, and I'm actually wasting so much energy blaming. We're not talking about a naive, foolish denying of society injustices. Do we live in a society that, of course, has historically barred all different types of people from opportunities? We already know that conversation. I'm interested in us each noticing, what are our gifts? What privilege have we been given? Everybody has been given something. I can speak. I can think. I can walk. These are already gifts. I can speak English. What a gift. There's so many interesting things, and those are random examples. Everybody has gifts, everybody has privilege. Of course, we have to acknowledge, okay, there's been systemic oppression, there's been misogyny, there's been homophobia. Of course, there's laws that are affecting people's lives because of this hatred. I still am interested in the empowered perspective of no problem, keep on doing that. Because as long as I step into my power and I'm shining bright and I'm delivering value and I'm showing up with my 50% of the energy, walking as a queen, doing queen things, I actually believe this is how we turn the world into a better place. I think we take much longer when we try to fight it out. I think when we're strong and confident in what we got going on, I think this is when some of the more uh, emotionally intelligent change starts to happen. This perspective upsets a lot of people. How can you say that? My whole life I've been oppressed. My whole life I've been bullied. Yes, of course. Absolutely, you have. And what? And what's next? And what are you going to do about it? Not fight back and sit and complain and tweet. What about meditating, as you talked about earlier? What about finding intrinsic self-worth? What about connecting to your true self? What about softening? What about saying, man, I have empathy? Because if somebody's behaving so badly, they themselves must have gone through so much pain that now they feel the need to hold somebody else back. They must be feeling so small that now they need to take the resources of somebody else. Real power is generous. Real power is kind. Real power is peaceful. Real power is unbothered. No problem. Behave badly. I'm so sorry that you behave like this. I don't want to behave like this. And the more I find forgiveness for those who have done things that deeply hurt me, deeply felt bad, the more empowered I feel. And ultimately, the more happy I feel. So that's really what I'm interested in from a more spiritual lens. Again, this upsets a lot of people because we've seen a lot of ugliness in this world. We've seen a lot of ugliness and we continue to see it. But I still will always believe in an activism that is from a place of love rather than is from a place of just replicating more fear and more blame.
Yeah. The harm is coming. It's like it's childlike harm. It's not innocent, but it's immature. It's childlike, and the best way to teach a child is not through it's through the demonstration, doing the queen-like things that you are doing in the world, expressing yourself authentically in that kindness, in that niceness, in that optimism, not the niceness, in the optimism, but in the beingness of positivity. That through
Yes.
my demonstration, that is to inspire others that can do the same.
Yes. And I want to add something. Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I just wanted to say that the way to teach a child is to demonstrate it. You can't just tell them. So that immature thing that is only learned. It is only learned out of the person from seeing a demonstration that is successfully acting in these ways.
That's exactly right. I love this. We do have to walk the very thing that we are seeking. We have to be that love and inclusivity and empowerment that we are seeking. And actually, the more insecure that we are, the easier it is for somebody else to keep bullying, keep oppressing. And true intrinsic value doesn't come from this capitalist Instagram addiction to having more, having the next thing, having this, having that. It's so foolish. You can have it right now in this moment by coming back to the glorious nature of the self. It's very, very profound. And it's not like it happens in the snap of a finger. It's a daily practice of doing one or two things for yourself that light you up, optimizing for your joy, taking care of your basic health needs. You know, these are things that we don't talk about often enough. The human body is quite amazing. Drink water, sleep properly 8 hours, notice what allows you to sleep beautifully and what doesn't. You know, we all of us are watching Netflix before we go to sleep, or people are vaping before they go to sleep, and these kinds of things. You know, I'm not so convinced that these are the most healthy ways to wind down. Do I myself notice, okay, I'm watching Netflix because I want to like zone out, but those are never the nights of sleep that I remember. It's like this feeling of tuning out farther from the self rather than coming back deeper into the self. The nights that I softly close my eyes, I have 3-4 moments of gratitude from the day. These are the most delicious sleeps that I've had, because they come from this gentle, relaxed state of the body to actually be nourishing and rehabilitating for those 8 hours. I wanted to add about this notion of modeling the behavior as well. When somebody behaves badly or I notice there's sexism, when I'm not coming from the wounded space and I'm coming from a healed space, it gives me the patience and the tools to speak to that person with the assumption that they have a desire to do something different and make a different change. If I throw daggers because I'm already wounded by the misogyny that I've experienced, by my own internalized misogyny, and now someone is misogynist to me, I will throw more daggers and they're not going to change their behavior because I'm only proving them right. If someone behaves badly and I say, listen, the way you did that, you're a leader, that was not so inclusive. It made this person and this person not participate less because you made them feel bad. You're not getting the best from them. You are a leader. You have to find ways to be more inclusive if you want to be the best leader. And these are 2, 3 ways that you can do that. Now, I'm not assuming they're a bad person. I've given them the chance to walk in their higher self by giving knowledge and empowering them with the opportunity to make a different choice. Just as if I don't know about being hard of hearing, or if I don't know about what it's like to be this and that, and I make a mistake, if someone throws daggers at me, you've completely robbed me of the chance to be better. And now I feel defensive. When you sit me down and say, Kieran, I know you meant well, but when you said this is the negative impact that behavior had on me and therefore might have on others. It gives me the immediate opportunity to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for teaching me this. I will never make that same mistake again because you've taught me how to make a different choice next time. So these are the small, small changes that we can make if we come from an empowered place rather than from a wounded, fighting place.
Yeah, those daggers are, it's interesting that those daggers are similar to what we are doing to ourselves when we are watching Netflix before we go to bed. Just tying those things together is that, like, the social media, that I've said this before, it fragments and fractures our attention. Our actual consciousness is fractured and fragmented into these bits and pieces. So we need the practices of intrinsic coming back to our wholeness.
Wow.
We need to bring ourselves back into wholeness every day. Like, make that a regular practice of yourself, so that you can also be in a state of the healed of the fractures and fragmentation, so that you're not throwing daggers at other people, like you were saying, or hurt people. And if you are aiming to inspire wholeness in others, it has no place to come from. It can't come from pain and fear and otherness. This otherness, it's like they are me too. I am completely capable of saying or doing those rude things, or those things that they were doing to ostracize or oppress others. I am 100% capable of doing that, and knowing that this is my human family. I want to do something of benefit to all of us.
Yes, 100%. And again, Travis, it's interesting because this perspective is not the favorite perspective. It's not. It's often met with, this is naive, this is foolish, this is not my experience. What happens when we're in the workplace and we have someone who's in a position of power over us and we can't actually speak out? Again, I believe in something different. I do believe in the ability to sit somebody down and say, listen, I love being on your team. I felt really hurt the other day when this happened. I'm not projecting, but it's important for me to let you know how I felt in case others might feel that way as well. And in case they don't, it doesn't matter. I'm just giving you knowledge and awareness as a leader. I have to believe that we live in a world where the leaders who really want to take their careers to the next level and who really want to be good at what they're doing would value an opportunity like that. Value an opportunity where someone's not throwing daggers and they're saying, no, listen, please, you're in a position of power. This will make great change. And if that person doesn't make that choice, I also see over time, anyway, karma corrects itself. You don't have to be the one to punish this person. Problematic leadership, bad behavior, misogyny, all these things, they get corrected over time. It's the idea of the justice arc bending towards the right thing. It becomes expired over time the more humans become more conscious. And it's really funny because to me, when I'm by myself, this perspective feels very obvious and true. And because I believe this perspective, that's how I see the world. It's through that lens. And so that's the feedback that I get. I put that energy out, and then that's what's given to me. When I put negative energy out and I'm moody and rude, guess what I get back? Moody, rude, fighting energy. It's very straightforward. So I think there's enormous power in curating our beliefs and choosing ones that affirm more life rather than more death.
Has this perspective always been with you, or has this been inspired by a particular source?
It's a mixture of things. I actually, people love to reference audiobooks they listen to and gurus they follow on Instagram. And of course, I have, different influences whom I love. At the same time, I actually try to keep out of the day-to-day news and the day-to-day media and even other people's opinions, because I really do feel it's important for me to have my own opinions and experience things and then form my viewpoint. At the same time, we don't live in a vacuum. So it is the reason why I like coming on podcasts like this or speaking directly to my social media and seeing what's resonating, because ultimately these messages don't do anything if they're not reaching a large amount of people. So I would say, at its core, it's people like Deepak Chopra. It's who's from India, which makes a huge difference for me personally, being from India. It's Oprah. It's, interesting books like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's always different things that I pick out what resonates with me and form my own viewpoints. But I do think love, peacefulness, these are high vibrational choices. There's no scenario in which love is a problem. There's no scenario in which empathy gets you into trouble. People say that you get taken advantage of, you get bullied, but that's because the other person is hurting. That's always going to be the truth. And if they use it against you, you can see it for what it is and distance yourself from that person because they've chosen that journey for themselves, and you can choose a different journey.
Yeah. My university actually gave Deepak Chopra an honorary degree some years ago.
Look at that.
For doing like a consciousness study. Somebody on my dissertation committee, Marilyn Schlitz, has been on Oprah with Deepak Chopra, so they're connected in that way. So that's really great, inspiring, or that's great sources of inspiration for this perspective. And I imagine that you're not looking to just be informed by external sources, but to be informed by everyone's innate inner source through meditation, things like this. How has your spiritual practice evolved over time? What is Madam Gandhi's meditation like? What's that look like for you?
I really appreciate that. I think one of the biggest choices that I made coming out of the pandemic was fully letting go of any drinking or smoking, fully. And, I wasn't much of a drinker or smoker to begin with. At the same time, it's everywhere. And I'm a musician. I mean, all we do is go to these kinds of events and the bar and this and that. And I'm also a Pisces, so I'm very fluid. If someone offers me something, sure, why not? Do I want to have a delicious glass of wine? Why not? Do I want to have a craft beer because we're touring in Portland and that's the local thing? Like, of course. At the same time, most of the time next morning, I wake up slower. Most of the time that night, then now what's happened is fuzzy, or I'm developing a fake sense of confidence because of this substance. I let go of those things because I'm interested in more clarity. I'm interested in keeping the temple clean. I'm interested in being present for something. And if I don't want to be present for it and I want to be zoning out from the thing, that's more information for me to just not show up and not participate. A lot of times people make a joke. They're like, oh, the only reason I can be here is because I'm completely wasted right now. It's like, let's think about that. Let's bring a moment of consciousness to that. Because oftentimes I would feel that way. I'm like, the only reason why this is fun is because we're wasted. If I was sober, this wouldn't be fun. So I might make a different choice because I'm interested in showing up for things that nourish me, things that I remember, conversations that are meaningful. So that was a huge choice for me. Also letting go of coffee. I don't know if you've ever tried to sit down and meditate for 10 minutes while just having had a cup of coffee. It's nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible because coffee is doing its job. It's getting you going. It's getting you focused on 100 different things at the same time. It's spiking your, adrenaline levels, these kinds of things. And maybe it's not adrenaline, but that feeling of urgency and anxiety, let's say. I've been drinking matcha. I've been drinking another brand that I super, super enjoy. That's basically just like ashwagandha and mushrooms, which is called mud water. I'm eating my plant-based diet, although I'm always on the journey to learn more protein. So anyone who's listening, if you want to send me your vegan protein Rex, that's the current journey I'm on. But I answer that question really quite humbly, saying that I never thought that I could give up coffee, alcohol, gluten, meat, dairy. I mean, these are things that are every day in my household, every day in my life. New York, LA, London. I did a whole tour of Europe last year. They're like, let me get this straight. You don't eat dairy. You don't eat milk. You don't eat like, but once you've decided that, the world opens up in a different way. So I do meditate every single morning. I haven't missed a morning since 2018. If I miss a morning, I'll do it in the car. If I miss a morning, I'll still do it 5 minutes before the show. I won't miss a morning. But the real answer to your question has been, what am I putting in my body? And that's made a big difference.
Yeah. So what are you putting in your body, and making like a discerning choice of what would be right, what would not be right. I'm not much of a drinker either, and I've known even when I was more of a drinker, I've known that like this is poisonous for me, and I still do it. But so many things in our modern world is like as a poisonous stimulant into our minds, into our bodies. Spending hours just binging Netflix or something.
Yeah,
Binging
everything.
Netflix.
That's exactly right. Everything, because they want us to stay addicted, and addiction is very, very hard to battle. And I feel like I understood that about myself, because I used to eat very badly in college. I used to overeat sweets, overeat junk food. I remember those periods because I would feel stressed and I'd be like, oh, I guess this is what college kids do. And I would find myself feeling so upset, so depressed, feeling upset about my own body because of the choices that I'm making, rather than realizing the beauty and incredible strength of my own body. And so, again, my message is not about everyone needs to stop drinking. The message is really about what lights you up, what makes you your best self, what allows you to show up with kindness and awareness, peacefulness, intelligence. Like, these are values that will always serve you in any area of your life, with your loved ones, with your work collaboration, colleagues, with someone you buy your morning matcha from at the corner shop. I'd rather live in a world where people respect me because they like the person they just met 5 minutes ago, not knowing anything, than seeing all my credentials and now sucking up to me. I'm so much more interested in being an awesome, loving, kind, positive human than I am being on the addiction cycle of accolades. And that's been a huge shift for me coming out of the pandemic, because it comes from an intrinsic sense of self-worth rather than for the need of external validation.
Yeah, and addiction is so profitable. So
Correct.
they are profiting on your addictions, and that is
You
stripping
say that
you of your resources. That's
100%. You say this though.
Financial resources, your physical resources, your mental resources is all being stripped of you, and you're not able to cycle that back into the investment of your body, of your family, of your community, because it is always so stripped from you, because they are continuing to promote addictive behaviors.
I love this and I agree. And I'm only laughing because you're saying that addiction is profitable, but I'm also thinking like the wellness industry is profitable. Like, they're more than happy to sell to a hippie like me coffee alternatives and fucking vegan vitamins that I now need. And it's basically about educating the masses about what is a deficit in your life, so then they can sell you the antidote to the deficit. So it is funny, and I have a bit of humility and self-awareness around that, which is like, it's quite funny to be like, okay, now that I don't drink, and some people know that, now I'm being sold, non-alcoholic mocktails and this and that. Like, no problem. You don't want to spend your money here, spend your money on this other thing. So, I'm also on the journey of kind of undoing my own American consumerist habits that I've grown up with, which is that, oh, you didn't even know you have this problem, and now you have to buy something to solve the problem. And really just trying to live with radically less and, be empowered more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the difference between a toxic capitalism that is taking away from us, and a conscious capitalism. Like I hear you. It is funny that oh, you don't drink alcohol, well then maybe this alternative
Yeah,
this will still give you
totally.
a euphoric experience,
Exactly.
but it's not without, you know. So like it is funny how it's just a substitution of different addiction. The antidote to the problem that was created by the same people that are selling the antidote.
Yeah, like
And
no
we see
problem.
that
Exactly.
we see that in psychopharmacology all the time, in psychiatry. But the the interesting thing to me is that the conscious capitalism is that there are certain, like you know, it is better for you, but it's better for the people around you that you're drinking matcha rather than coffee or
I
alcohol
like
or
that.
other these
I
things.
like
So
that.
like
Well
it's
said.
like
This
it,
notion of being better for those around you is really strong.
yeah, yeah.
I love
So
that.
if I choose good habits for myself, you know, your message of shining your light forward, of shining your light and expressing yourself forward. It is like a best serving light if I am also doing the things that are serving myself in the best way.
Wow. Wow. I really am appreciating you bringing up this notion of being good, not only for yourself, but for those around you. Because ultimately, community is the truth, and togetherness is the truth, and being in service is the truth, and actually delivering value and joy to those in your everyday is enormously purposeful. It adds years to our life. It's the reason why people choose to have children or choose to have a long-term partner. It's because there's a sense of somebody is in my life who I can give to. And it doesn't need to be a biological family, as we of course know it can be chosen family. But the world that we live in right now is pushing us towards individualism, independence. And freedom is good, but real freedom is about expressing your truest self for others, to allow them to do the same, to shatter these kinds of small minded values that we've been fed since we were young. And it's not an egoic shine. It's how can I be in service? Like, what do you need? Oh, I'm noticing that I'm moody. I'm going to take a moment and come back with nice energy tomorrow. It's a very empowered way to walk. It's a very empowered way to say, I know myself well. And if you want me to show up to do the job that you're asking me to do, these are the few things that I know I will need based on years of observation of how I am. And if you can honor these few things, it'll allow me to come with the best energy I can possibly have. I think this is quite radical.
Yeah, we are social beings. It's an evolution. We had been very in Eastern ways of being in the world, had been very community oriented, and then there was some value in the individualism of the West. But then this is the next shift, is to bring both of those together. We invest in ourselves so that we can invest in others, so that we can do more
Oh,
for others.
wow.
Well, I do want to ask you, like, what has it been like as in your Indian heritage? What has that how has that influenced all that you do?
I mean, on the most simple level, my family is very family oriented. Every December, I'm going to Dubai and to India to see both sides of my family. I do think there's enormous strength in the communal living. My grandparents, both sets are alive. I'm 34 and they're in their 90s. I think that's remarkable. I want to have a kid sooner than later, just so that we can experience four generations of our family, in this physical realm. I think that's quite remarkable. I've learned about warmth. I've learned about color. I've learned about kindness. I've learned about respect. These are absolutely values that come from my Indian upbringing. I've learned about discipline. I've learned about financial intelligence. I've learned about putting hard work to get good grades. This is, of course, the Indian stereotype, right? That all of us are very smart. At the same time, I've let the values that I find to be constraining and oppressive, and I've taken on the values that I find to be uplifting and incredible. And so again, everything is a choice. You know, I've had my years where I've spent time blaming my parents for this and that, blaming school for this and that, blaming others, blaming society, blaming sexism, this and that. You know, the more I come back to a place of inner peace, self-love, the more I actually find myself in the role of being the teacher, the mother, the lover. It's so empowering. I feel like those who I see being rude and unkind, they end up being my best friends because I also understand there's enormous amount of pain when you're behaving like that. And even if those people themselves don't realize, there's an opportunity there. Because when I was in pain and I was being rude and misbehaving, actually what I want is more sweetness, more understanding, more awareness, not for someone to throw daggers back. So this is for me where my Indian heritage has added enormous value to my journey.
Yeah, I love that, and that just ties in that last point is that like you're a product of this Eastern and Western, and you're so authentic and so articulate and so
Thank you.
so beautifully, putting your message out into the world to inspire others through just a demonstration of being yourself. And you're doing it through your music, your expression. All of this is really so awesome. And, Pisces gang. So I love the Pisces. So, just thank you for all that you are doing and have done. Thank you so much. And how can people, I know you're on Spotify, all your music is on Spotify, millions of streams. There's TED Talks on YouTube. You have Instagram. How would you like people to continue to connect with you and follow your journey?
Thank you for that. For those who are local to the Bay, I'm playing June 22nd at the Bandcamp headquarters in Oakland, which I'm really excited for that show because I'm going to give a talk about health and wellness in music, and then my band is going to play. Tickets for that show will go on sale pretty soon. They'll be on my website, madamgandhi.com. And for those of you who are listening in longevity for years after this podcast has come out, it's Madam Gandhi on socials and, of course, Madam Gandhi on all the streaming platforms. And hopefully we'll come to a city near you. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you so much, Madam Gandhi. I appreciate it.
You're thinking, who is this man talking?